This idea always ends up going through my mind. Every few months, I end up with the same thought process of, should I just quit games? Is this really worth it? Is this channel, for example, worth the mental tax that it does cause upon me sometimes? And this all ends up coming through in this video, I feel like. Really, the main idea of this video is talking about if gaming is actually something we should be doing or spending a lot of our time doing. I'm not advocating for the idea of completely abolishing people from playing games. I'm also not advocating the idea that you should be playing games all the time. But I think balance is definitely key for pretty much anything throughout life. We live in a time of gaming that has the best creations possible being made, but we still question whether or not we're living in a time where gaming is just complete trash. A mixture of missing my gaming experiences from when I was a kid and knowing that that will never come back. I'll never experience everything that I went through as a kid whilst playing games ever again. A mixture of those two things ends up making me feel like gaming just isn't where it used to be. I wouldn't have ended up questioning this topic if it wasn't for the fact that I've gone through a time where I decided to completely stop gaming. My life ended up feeling like it was actually going really well. I was having more fun, I was spending time with my friends, doing more physical exercise and enjoying my hobbies a lot more. And the hobbies that I had weren't even ones that you could consider overly interesting. It'd be things like reading, running. I'd find all these things a lot more enjoyable than, let's say, gaming as a whole, but more specifically multiplayer games. So the main question really is, why do we game and why do I game? Growing up, I played hours upon hours of multiplayer games, ranging from Halo, COD, and Destiny, playing games such as Minecraft, Assassin's Creed 2, and Skyrim, but I mainly ended up falling in love with those big, rich games that had mass amounts of story to tell. My favourite game of all time is Skyrim, and some of my best times in gaming were when I was just playing main story games like GTA, Assassin's Creed 2, and Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't play games to escape my life. I don't want to escape. I want to experience the work of art that tells an amazing story and creates worlds that I enjoy getting lost in. The difference is that I don't willingly want to escape my day-to-day life, but I won't say no to the idea of just losing some time in a world that I love. I know many people play games just to get through the day, to escape reality, and some use it for the same reason I did whilst growing up, and that was for the social aspects of gaming. As I'm a part of the first generation that truly grew up with the internet and knowing nothing besides that, I grew up living in the middle of nowhere where I basically just had my Xbox as my main form of communication with my friends. And because of that, I spent so much time on my Xbox talking to my friends that I spent little time outside meeting up with them. So because of what I just mentioned about my childhood, is there really any reason that this idea has any validity? Well, I think it does and it doesn't. It's a really hard one to answer. But for us to answer this question, I think we need to talk about my history with gaming, the pros and cons of quitting gaming as well, and basically the overall experience that people would have when they do quit. This is a topic that I've been wanting to discuss for quite a while, and I know that it's a very sensitive topic, especially in the community of gaming itself. You've got some people on one end who basically believe that honestly you can't say anything negative about gaming, it's not a bad hobby in any way. Then you have the other side of the aisle that basically believes that gaming is the biggest waste of time in existence. And that's something that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So first, we're going to go over a brief history of my time playing gaming, just so you get an idea into the background of what's going through my mind when making this video. The first time I remember playing any form of games, I believe it was things like Metal Gear 2, Simpsons Hit and Run, and games on my sister's Game Boy. It wasn't until I got my own DS where I started to play games, mainly Pokemon. But it wasn't until I got a Wii that I ended up playing a lot more games such as Animal Crossing, Wii Sports Resort obviously, and things like Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics, and Mario in general. But then I think around about a year or two later, I ended up getting a PS3 and I ended up playing a game called Dragon Age 2, which I didn't really play much of, but I had Skyrim purchased for me around about a month after release. I was 9 and I was absolutely terrified to do anything within the world of Skyrim, so I ended up basically going out hunting and doing some smithing. Once I was 10, I started to man up and basically was like, you know what, let's give this Skyrim game a proper shot. But the difference was that I was playing on Xbox 360 now. The main reason why this was such a big deal to me is because the Xbox 360 version didn't crash all the time, my PS3 version did. After this, I basically stuck to the same sorts of games for years to come. Only games that were online really, as a way to kind of deal with the lack of personal relationships I had. Not really lack of, more of just the experience of a one-to-one in real life setting. I mainly ended up just playing games with my friends instead of going out and talking to them in person. We just all found it a bit more boring in person, so we could at least play games, socialize over that instead. We ended up playing games from Halo all the way through to Call of Duty, and then eventually Destiny came out. We ended up playing Destiny for many years. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that it was a negative experience. I'd say that generally it was a very positive experience, but I would definitely say that games like Destiny are ridiculously addictive. They're designed that way, obviously, but they are very harmful, especially to kids who don't understand what addiction really is. I would spend 6 to 8 hours every day on this game. And if you think I'm joking, I'm genuinely not. Me and my friend would spend so much time, it was ridiculous. I remember playing it on Christmas Day, when you're really meant to be spending that time with your family and close ones. You're not meant to be playing games on Christmas. And then it just ends up becoming something that literally I would be at school talking about all day, to then go home and play the game all day, talking about the game all day, to wake up the next day trying to skive off school to try and get my Destiny level up higher. During my time growing up though, I played Skyrim a lot. I basically play the game bordering every year at this point. And then I play a lot of the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I have videos talking about them, so if you do want to go check them out, make sure to do so. But when it comes to it, I've replayed a lot of the original Assassin's Creed games, mainly because of nostalgia, to be honest. But now I play games mainly for the worlds they create and the stories they're trying to tell. Do I still play multiplayer games? Yes, but not often. I do from time to time, but only with the intention now of playing them with my friends for a little bit of fun. But the main issue I have with online games and games in general is my anger with them. I don't play online games like I used to, and this is mainly because the moment I start caring about the game and I start caring about my performance in the game, I get emotionally attached to how I'm doing and what I'm doing in the game. And because of the emotional attachment side of it, I'd end up taking my anger out on objects. I've gone through too many Xbox controllers. I've gone through a multitude of PlayStation controllers. I've gone through multiple keyboards, mouses, for example. I try my best now to stay away from getting annoyed, but it is still a massive struggle that I try to deal with. But between the years of 2018 and 2021, I found myself not playing games as much. Or when I did, I felt extremely unhappy, and honestly, I had a massive issue with my relationship with gaming. And that issue also stems from my toxic productivity mindset. Productivity is something that I feel like we all love, but honestly, the moment you have a toxic relationship with productivity, which I feel like a lot of us do, especially if you're down the productivity rabbit hole of YouTube, you end up looking at everything through a productive lens. What happens though when you decide to look at gaming through a productive lens? You'll start questioning what you're doing, and honestly, you'll start saying to yourself that you could be doing so much more that's a more productive scenario. Which generally speaking, yes, you could be doing something more productive, but honestly, your thoughts are your thoughts. That doesn't mean that you're going to put it into practice. But first, we need to try and answer the question of, is gaming productive or not? I quit games for almost half a year in 2019. Honestly, this changed my views on games forever. I realized that I'm honestly happier when I don't play games. But this was also a time of massive amount of mental turmoil for myself. I stopped playing games and started going out and doing things for my friends, saving money, and I went to go visit New York as I wanted to go traveling. That was on March 8th, 2020. I wouldn't return to the UK until the 15th of March, and 10 days later, the UK had entered lockdown. I started fully playing games once again with things like Warzone and Animal Crossing. It was some of the funnest times in gaming in a very, very long time. I won't lie to you and say that I wasn't enjoying myself, but I was always thinking to myself about how I felt guilty for what I was doing. I didn't feel like what I was doing was actually productive in any manner, even though everyone was in the same situation. So why was it the case that this was happening? So what were the benefits of not playing games, and why has it stuck with me for such a long time since I originally did it all the way back then? So there are three main benefits of quitting gaming. The first of which is that you get to spend more time doing things that you couldn't necessarily have done beforehand, and couldn't is in quotations because honestly you could have, it's just you were prioritizing playing games more than anything else, and I am talking to myself in the past tense for some reason, I don't know why. I was able to spend time going out with friends, I went to the gym, I read things. I was just enjoying my time and being a lot more present in everyday moments. I was reading a bit more than I ever had beforehand, and I was overall just a lot more healthier and spending time with my friends in person, which was a lot more fun than just talking to them over a game. I think this is just something that comes from getting older. You just want to spend time doing things that are more present, that are actually in the real world. You don't want to be spending all your time in a virtual world, as there's no real point to it. The more older you get, I know that there'll be a lot of people listening who might be younger than, let's say, 16. They'll end up thinking to themselves, well, how can you possibly believe this idea that, oh my god, gaming is so bad, or you need to quit gaming? I don't believe in those ideas necessarily, it's just, saying it as a facetious statement. But in terms of gaming, it's something that you do struggle with, especially once you start to grow up. You start to realize that gaming really isn't everything. Gaming is just another form of addiction that really everyone deals with on some level. Which again, you could argue that all of my experiences and feeling better about myself was because I had a gaming addiction, but my actual view of it was that I was spending about 5 to even 6 days a week working, with a drive of around about an hour in total going there and back, and I was just too tired to do anything else. I didn't want to leave the house. I was able to rationalize an addiction pretty much by saying, I'm just too tired, I don't want to go out. And for almost an entire year of my life, I did nothing but basically be at home, maybe play some games every now and again. And even during the time where I quit, I was just too mentally tired because of work that I just didn't want to do anything. Now the second area is definitely in line with the first thing, which is that I had more control over my time, or at least I felt like I did. When I quit games, I ended up spending a lot more time doing things that just seemed or would be classed as more productive, such as working on my photography, working out and reading. During this time, I felt massively productive and overall a lot more fulfilled in my life. And this is the main trap that gaming has on a lot of people, a false sense of achievement. This is more of an issue with multiplayer games more than anything, which is one of the main reasons why I dropped playing multiplayer games in general, as I personally don't get anything out of it anymore. Because of all of this, I ended up feeling a lot more better in my life as a whole. I spent my time doing things with people and working on myself, not working on a digital version of myself. Instead of making my Hunter in Destiny max light level, I would end up doing more exercise than ever and becoming more informed through reading and increasing different practices in my life to see if they had any effect on me personally. Now the last area for me is a lot more personal. This last area is my anger. When I play games, I can definitely say that I have a slight anger problem. The moment I get emotionally engaged with a game, this mainly ends up happening with multiplayer games, but also happens with single player games from time to time. Even now, I have to really hold myself back from getting emotionally attached to a game purely because of this issue. It's something that I've always dealt with since I was younger. I've never really been able to deal with it properly, but when I quit gaming, I ended up no longer feeling as angry as I did all the time. The anger that I felt through games would also bleed into my life. The false sense of achievement that games give you just made me feel dissatisfied with my life, and that just made me more angry in general, which is one of the reasons why I had to just step back and give myself a bit of a break from playing games. However, this is where I have to disagree with this idea, as it's also a massive idea out there that's preached by people online specifically, and one thing that I remember seeing from a Logan Paul podcast was him saying that basically if you play games competitively for hours on end and you make no money, you should just quit playing them, which the premise I do agree with, but I also do disagree with it. It's a hard one to justify, as one side of the argument is basically telling you that they want to just spend their time, why should you care about how they're spending their life? Then the other side of it is basically them saying that you could be doing something a lot better for yourself, and that could actually give you some form of monetary gain later down the line, or even just increase your mental capacity at some point. So because of those two things, it becomes very hard to even argue the case of gaming could be positive for you. I do think that there is a massive issue with gaming addiction, especially right now, and it's more prevalent than ever because of things like Fortnite, for example, Minecraft, and other activities for when games eventually come out, and you're going to see even more of an addictive area coming across. Even things like TikTok as a social platform is something that's just proving how bad our addiction is getting that we can't even question the idea of quitting it. I struggle with the idea of quitting TikToks. I don't want to feel out of the loop of all the new trends. And this all leads into the exact same thing, which is that we're all being used for our attention, because our attention equals profit. Why do you think that people who make all these addictive apps, or even make things like tablets, for example, with the quote from Steve Jobs where he ended up not letting any of his children have an iPad because he knew how exactly addictive it was? Now the first argument I'd probably say I do 100% agree with that can disprove the idea of this entire video is that everyone has hobbies that would be considered stupid or unproductive. You name it. The people who watch football, for example, are the worst at this. Not all of them, obviously, but the amount of times that I've seen on things like TikTok or just on YouTube in general, where people will say gaming is such a waste of time, and then 2 minutes later they're off to go watch a 90 or 110-minute match of football, where all you're really doing is watching a load of people run around some grass. That's all you're doing. It's not just football, it's all of them. Many hobbies are the exact same as this. It doesn't matter what you choose, pretty much everything you could probably boil down to being completely useless. As who truly defines what matters? That's the key question to all of this entire argument, and nobody has the correct answer. Is it someone like Andrew Tate who's exploding on TikTok right now, who says that he won't have any nerds as children? Is it someone like Jordan Peterson? Is it someone like Gary Vee? Nobody knows the actual correct answer to this. Nobody at all. That's who can answer that question. Nobody. Your life is limited, so really, you should do things that are fulfilling you, and if that is playing games, go for it. If that's watching football in your spare time, go for it. You should do what you want to do. Not just because other people are telling you that you should play games, for example, or you should jump on. If you don't want to play a game, don't play a game. Or if you personally do feel like gaming is taking a negative impact on your life, try quitting for a small period of time and see how it makes you feel. Not only that argument, but in many games out there, we have some of the best worlds ever created and some of the best stories ever being told through the format of games. We have games like Red Dead 2, Skyrim, Assassin's Creed 2, GTA 4 and 5, Dishonored, Star Wars Fallen Order, and many other games out there that are all telling such just great stories with great worlds behind them as well. Gaming to me is the best form of content. You have books out there where you're having to be forced to be imaginative, but you're also having to read them, and a lot of us do struggle with reading books and keeping our attention span with them. For me, like I mentioned just then, I really do struggle to read books. I also struggle with my imagination. I pretty much can't imagine things properly. I require having something that I can use as kind of like a source. For example, I'm reading through the Game of Thrones book. I've watched the entire show, so I can imagine what they are like. But if it wasn't the case that I'd watched the show, I would really be struggling. Then you have films and TV shows, which are great in their own right. They allow you to see what you were imagining from books. But the only difference is that you don't get the personal experience that you might get from a book. As in a book, you can experience the thoughts of the characters and the other people around the main character. But with a film or a show, if you want to do that, you have to break the fourth wall with things like House of Cards or Deadpool. With games, however, you can actually feel both of these. You can truly feel like you are one with the characters you're playing and feel integrated into the worlds like Skyrim, Los Santos, Novigrad, or Paris in Assassin's Creed Unity. All of these are great creations that would have never been conceivable from a book or a film. Yes, we have things like Middle-earth in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but in comparison to the depth that you get in games, there is no comparison. So what are the pros and cons of quitting gaming and not quitting gaming? For most people, I would say that if you play games a light amount, then you're perfectly fine. But if you're someone like me who grew up with games and basically used them as a way to escape your life for multiple different reasons, so in turn you basically play them all the time as you have emotional attachment, you become addicted and rely on them to kind of get through your life, and all of this adds on to a false sense of achievement, and honestly makes you feel like you're going somewhere in life when in reality, you're still stuck in your room, earning nothing, and you're stuck there forever. If you feel guilty for playing games, or even let's say play games for more than 2 hours a day, you're probably feeling guilty because you know that you could be doing more with your time that's actually worthwhile. So maybe quitting for a month will just give you an idea into how you deal with not playing them. As I know out there's a lot of people who also then instantly respond with, well, I could quit gaming, I just don't want to. That is an addiction. If you don't want to, and you know you can apparently, but you're never willing to test the theory, you're probably addicted. There's no other way of putting it, you are most likely addicted. The main two cons, however, to not playing games is the social aspect that you get. For example, the story that I mentioned earlier where I went to New York, that was with a guy I met through Destiny around a year before we ended up going. It was a great experience, and he's just one of many different people that I've met through the online world. And most of my friends in real life, I generally have spent more time speaking to them over Xbox, for example, than I have in person. It's a very few people that I've actually spent more time with in person now than I have over the internet, which is a really scary thought to think, but yeah, it's true. And the other area to this is the worlds themselves. Some people might say that gaming is a complete waste of time, but then they'll go watch all of the newest films coming out from people like Marvel. Obviously, most of the fan bases are fairly similar, but generally speaking, you still have a lot of people out there who will literally basically completely tear down gaming, but they'll go and watch a new TV show that's just come out, or they'll go watch Love Island. Some people might say that you shouldn't play games and experience the world instead, and you should go and become massive. But they're also the same people who are probably spending more time than actually required going to the gym, for example. Everyone can take everything just a little bit too far, and the only way to truly enjoy something is having it under control. For me, I've ended up neglecting my body, my mental health, my hobbies, and my friendships really because of this channel. I've only been making videos for 8 months, and honestly I can already see the mental toll that it's taking on me. But I view it in the sense of I'm doing something with the intent that hopefully I can do something that I truly enjoy. I genuinely love making these videos. I love having these sorts of think pieces like this video, kind of just discussing this idea that I feel like a lot of people go through their minds of thinking, maybe I should just quit, maybe I should just give up doing this because honestly my life would be so much better without it. All the way to the videos, for example, where it's the long form videos talking about why I love a certain game, or why things like Netflix is not doing well, or why TV shows are not going as perfectly as they can be, or talking about the self-development topics, or talking about tech. All these different things I love about YouTube, and I'm willing to kind of neglect myself a little bit in a way to get what I want, which is eventually to use this channel as a platform for something that I can enjoy using all the time. I'm going to be starting to take care of my physical health a lot more. I'm going to also be trying to take care of my mental health a lot more. And I will be making a video shortly about this idea. But if you're spending 6 hours a day playing games and you're earning nothing from it, and you're not even pursuing a career or even trying to do anything with your time to improve yourself physically or mentally, then you need to take a step back. What could go wrong with cutting back your time spent in games? Really, nothing. What could go wrong with trying to not play games for a week, for a month, or even multiple months, or even an entire year? Nothing. You'll find something else to care about. I'm not advocating quitting caring about games, or just to view games as a terrible hobby. What I'm saying is that gaming can be toxic. Everyone can become toxic in some way from all their different hobbies. Take a step back from the things that you feel guilty about for just a little bit, and see if there's any difference in your life. Maybe you'll find yourself happier because you're no longer playing games. A lot of people end up feeling a lot happier because they're no longer doing something they feel guilty for wasting their time on. For me, I'm only playing games now because I found a loophole for myself. I have a very toxic relationship with productivity, and because of that, I wasn't playing games because I knew I could be doing something more productive. Now I make videos on this channel. There is a reason why I play games, and that's the only thing that I'll say. Do what makes you happy, but you should also give yourself a chance to walk away from something that could be an addiction. So just give it a try if you do feel like you might be addicted to playing games. Obviously, there'll be a lot of people out there who basically say, no, I'm not addicted, I can step back at any point. Go on then, do it. Take a week off, take a month off. Tell me in the comment section how it went for you in a month's time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I make a lot more videos on this channel about different topics. This can range from tech videos to self-development videos and gaming videos every single Friday. I upload a lot longer form of videos every month, or at least I try to. My most recent one was Red Dead Redemption 2. But in terms of these sorts of videos, I don't do these sorts of videos that often. I try my best with these kind of think pieces to upload them every few maybe months and just kind of explain my thought process on these different things. Maybe you'll find it useful, maybe you'll fully disagree with me. Who knows? But with that all being said, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like and do subscribe for more content on this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.